Tenpa chonten te te chin shepa tra chompa yang taba tsobe sanje ripa dan shasu tenpa te ora shepa chiten chenpa kibu dewe kalo jowa la na me pa la ta mi nung je tenpa sanje chumten de pe jawa shaja tuba la cha tse lo chodo japsu cho tenpa chumten te te chin shepa Dajomba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Ripa Dansha Su Tenpa Devara Jeba Jiten Jemba Kibo Dewe Kalo Jowa Lana Mepa Lada Minam Je Tenpa Sanje Chumdende Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chatse Lo Chodo Jepsu Jo Tenpa Chumdende Dijin Jeba Dajomba Yangdaba Zobe Sanje Ripa Dansha Su Tenpa Devara Jeba Jiten Tenpa Jibo Dewe Kalo Jowa Lana Mepa Lada Minam Je Tenpa Sanje Chumdende Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chatse Lo Chodo Jepsu Chi 我这个年做这趟子杀青的老公婆对婆呢，俺年纪的那就去做，电视节目就拉家这个老到公安局都说上话，一起家族谁的两波的头发今天送到那年吧，公婆去年就拉家这，成就的吧对面大约是三多头儿就拉家子。对对，觉得谁把数码这两面最近就拉差子，广播都接见电跑，团结见别电跑不是那么严的加做些，地形些拉差子拉大别对家的话就节约年送来追击，最多电当就把西就去拉差子了，这那对那么样对。拉巴达拉热多呢，新界当把军的军队拉洋差子了。第八届亚米加是叫我别什么做八届，让这些年用所对的那上届第八届干嘛这别嘛没，有嘛是把就他没让老大听到不对这全能得到了他。虽然第一他们这是把这恐怕都年军纪这对的，gata nata chiwe love to be CBA chole to whatever show. Now the homage was to the perfection of wisdom. So during the recitation, the mantra, it's good to meditate on emptiness. Mazan jeme shera paru chi ma jeme ganang je mo ni so so ra de yi shi ju du tum je we yum la cha ze lo te ya pa ka te para san ka te pu te ye so te ya ka te para san ka te pu te ye so te ya ka te para san ka te pu te ye so Giri tongda je ju shiwa tang mi tu nebe jendang chawa tang tumbara tupche pe som tso ju ne tashi te jang dingde de le sho nyende shiwa tso na kushi ni je ni shi tingze kan ye tang zho la pembara che na lam shi ni je je ten tun rup tse pa kan da yan da tenbe tu na namba kunde na tso te zumba nyende chan ju san pe tso je san je je ni Yum de la chang zi lo, kan ji ten jin te ba zhong ka ba me ba ge me ba che ba me ba ta me ba wu ma me ba zhuo me ba ta te te me ten jin me zhi ba ni xi xin den ba. Zhao bei san jie ma nam ji dang pa de la cha zi lo sa chi bei ji zhong xin me tuo zhang ri ra ling xi nin de jian ba de. San ji xing do mi de bei ba yi zhou pen nang da xing do. Chebarasho Yedamanguru Ratnamendala Kamniyataya me. Now they're taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. So it's taking refuge and generating bodhicitta is very important practice. So when we recite this prayer, should really meditate on bodhicitta. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation I create through teaching the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation I create through teaching to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the accumulation I create through teaching the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Kanji tu zenye so ne tawa tamche pambe che tambe chu ne tunsebe kodam te la cha ze lo. Namo la ye ke dalu da ni jen ke tripum tata mi ke nam ta chowa kunji chanam che samba tanche ke to ta ke che tun to tamja sunra kunda tawe mi ke san taba tubi chunga cho tsewe chunga pa je tsepa ye se se shenye nam la kube tu. So now I think we are in stanza 13. Di chir kyuji tenpa la, ten chong tonga lekpa nga, ten kundu meba tang, rangshin ki ni yube means. Therefore, in your teaching, seeing dependent origination is held. That too, not as an utter non-existence, nor as an intrinsic existence. So, therefore, which is the previous stanza, uh, the whereas when one see the opposite, since there can be no function in emptiness, no emptiness is what has function. One falls into a dreadful abyss you maintain. So therefore, right, the person who cannot able to uh, what you call uh, understanding uh, emptiness means dependence, origination. Dependent originations means emptiness. So the person who don't understanding that, so these are the people who, when they leave emptiness, then they have a difficulty to accept the dependent origination. That's what's called, since there can be no function in emptiness. So no function in emptiness, right? No emptiness in what has function. So emptiness and dependent origination for them is like opposite each other. So because of that, so people who fall into the extreme views, right? Those are the people. So because of that, in your teaching, in Buddha, your teaching, seeing dependent origination is held. Means seeing the dependent origination is the cheer, right? It's great. So healed. Uh, that too, not as utter non-existence. So dependent origination doesn't mean non-existence. Dependent origination doesn't mean intrinsic existence, nor as an intrinsic existence, right? So that means the real uh, important part here, you know, which we need to understand is dependence means emptiness. Emptiness means dependence. Emptiness doesn't mean non-existence, right? Dependent origination doesn't mean intrinsic existence. So the ordinary people, majority us today, for us, emptiness means non-existence. Dependent origination, which means for us, is exist intrinsically, independently. So that is why we are fall into extreme view, either nihilism or either absolutism. So that view, that extreme view, and what you call hold us, bind us into the samsara, right? So therefore, only the way to liberate from samsara, you need to understanding dependent originations means emptiness. Emptiness means dependent origination, right? That is why he is saying, therefore, in your teaching, in Buddha, your teaching, seeing dependent origination is healed, that too, not as utter non-existence, nor as intrinsic existence, right? Dependent or utter non-existence, just general non-exists, right? Nothing exists, nihilism. So it doesn't mean it is nihilism. That is why your teaching or seeing the dependent origination is it's very special. So that's called healed. And healed, it means cheer them, right? You cheer to the people. You what you call the when they play the basketball, they are what do you call cheer lady or something? Yeah, cheer lady. We cheer them. Oh, you're great, you're great. So it's like that. Buddha's, therefore your teaching on seeing dependent origination is heal, is cheer, is great. So that means like uh it's excellent. It's like a praise, praising sound to the Buddha. So that so main or important here the message is we need to really understanding the emptiness means dependent origination. That's the main point, main message. Sometime in general, when we saying emptiness means dependent origination, that we say because we learn from. But our mind, when we really think about the emptiness, about like a flower emptiness, for us, maybe like a maybe nihilism. So there is a one quote in Lama Tsongkhapa's Lamrim Chemo. Uh, he was really saying that when we really go to the emptiness, it's very hard to accept existence of cause and effect relationship. So it's a very, very difficult. It's almost goes to the nihilism. That is why I was thinking, I mentioned last time, when you meditate on emptiness, it goes toward almost in the nihilism. It may be first good sign. Your mind is something thinking. Some you are thinking. If you feel, not, you just say nothing, nothing. That's not going to work. That you just visualize, there's nothing. You really use your own logic you know, reason to use really things are not there. So that kind of experience of believing, I mentioned last time, when we meditate or when we contemplate emptiness, many people, some, we may, uh, what do you call, not understanding how to meditate. I think the majority, we may meditate on emptiness, means we just visualizing, not really experiencing, not really coming believe through your investigate. It's just you visualizing. So that's why you meditate, say, okay, there's a nothing, nothing exists. It's just, try to negate everything and you try to remain the stage of what you call nothing, right? That kind of stage. So that's the big point of the mistake, I think, big mistake these are. These we just visualizing. So the visualizing is not enough. So through when yourself really investigate, contemplate, after the result of that contemplation, if you feel there's really nothing there, if that feeling arises, maybe you first remain on that feeling of non-exist there, right? Then slowly, slowly, if things not exist, then how they're functioning, right? Is they functioning? I can feel pleasure, unpleasure. There's something there. It's functioning now. So because of that reason, not only the way to exist just imputed, just label, just label there. It's nothing from there. So that kind of dependent origination in dependent upon basic of importation, right? Basic of importation. I sent you the notes, you may already got it. Three different types of the dependent origination. So the last one is the most important part. This one, in term dependent origination, in terms of dependent on basic of importation. Just, just a label, just designate it. So that kind of things, first, I think you may feel there's nothing there, non-exists. Then later maybe goes to the just where the existence is just label, right? It's caused that way. So that is why nihilism is just remain with the nihilism alone is not good, but beginner is first good too, because that one take you to the emptiness. Because for you, through your investigation, there's a nothing, anything you can find it. Through that reason, there's a nothing. You feel it, but it's functioning, right? There's something, it's functioning. If you say non-exists, how it function, right? You put the fire there and you investigate fire non-exists. If the fire is really non-exists, when you put your hand on the fire, it burn, right? It's functioning. There's something there. If they non-exist, how can it burn, right? But when you look at to try to find it from the fire side, go there, ended up each particles, right? The little particles. So those particles are not that fire. When you go, 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 same like a water ended up with little particles, right? So each little particles, uh, not the whole water there, right? So that it goes to very tiny little particles. That's not water. They're all separated there, right? But all together, though, it's just waving and it's flowing, all kind of things. But that little particle is nothing there. It's not functioning like that way. So that water, when you end it up, it goes to that particle. And that particle itself, when you investigate, it also depends on its own part of particle, its own part of particle. You cannot find what you're looking. You cannot find it from there. So through that reason, you can't find from the object side. That is why they say there's nothing from the object side. There's nothing there, right? Nothing from there. But it functioning there. Fire is burning, water is giving this function. So there's something there. So that existence go there, you cannot find it from the object side, but it's also functioning. That's why you have to say it exists. So wait, how it exists now, right? You look there to find it, you cannot find it anything. The way of the existence is just label, imputed on the basic of imputation, right? Basic of this imputation, you just label, impute it. So there's nothing from there. So that kind of experience, when you first, I think you may feel almost kind of the nihilism or nothing exists, anything. Then when you slowly wake up, you may have to accept it. There's no third choice. Nothing from there, but it's functioning. Only the way to exist is exist just dependently. Depending on basic of importation. It's relatively, dependently. There's nothing, anything from there otherwise. So there is no choice. We have to go that way. Even very hard to say, but there's no any other choice. So through that, uh, kind of experience, then maybe slowly, uh, may understanding emptiness means dependence. Dependence means emptiness. Maybe uh, you can understanding both dependent and emptiness. It's like a one coin, two faces, right? One coin has two aspects, two faces. So, so this is very, very important to understand. So maybe later we could explain a little bit. So then the next, Teme Nanke Metoshi, Ena Mate Yomai, Muyutuna, Tetuba, Juta Kena Tuba Gills. So the first stanza 13, de chi chi tempa la tenju tong le paranga, teang kuntu meba tang, rashi jene yupe means. Therefore, in your teaching, seeing dependent origination is held, that too, not as an utter non-existence, nor as an intrinsic existence. Then stanza 14, Teme nanka me toshi, tena mate yomayi, ngoyo dumna, tetuba juda jena tuba gills. The non-contingent is like a sky flower. Hence, there is nothing that is not dependent. If things exist through their essence, their dependence on cause and condition for their existence is contradictions. So this stanza 14, it's saying the manner in which all phenomena are ought to be empty of inherent existence by reason of being dependently originated. So all of these phenomena are empty because of their dependent origination. But Here, non-contingent is like a sky flower, which means non-contingent, which means non-dependence, right? Non-dependence, which means, so the non-dependent is like a sky flower. So that means there is nothing, any phenomena exists without dependence, right? Non-dependence. So any phenomena exists have to be dependence, something else. So non-dependent phenomena is like a sky flower. Sky flower never exist. Right? How they have a sky flower? Sky flowers does not exist. It is the example of non-existence, right? So that's why non contagion is like a sky flower. So non-dependent, if the things are not dependent on anything, that means they are not exist. They are like a sky flower. Hence, there is nothing that is non-dependence. Hence, therefore, there is nothing that is not dependence. So anything have to be dependence. There's a nothing any, right, not dependent. If things exist through their essence, means if things exist through their intrinsically, essence means intrinsically, inherently, inherently. So if things exist inherently, that means through their essence, then they're dependent on causal conditions are for the existence is a contradiction. So these are the, I mentioned, the last, lower, the Buddhist school, mind only school, mid, and autonomy, and Sutra school, and Great Exposition school, right? Vaibhashaka, Swatantika, and Yogacara, or you can say Chittamatra. So these schools, Buddhist school, who assert things are dependent on causal condition, right? They believe that things are, for instance, flowers are dependent on causal condition. But at the same time, they believe in flower exists independently, inherently, right? This Buddhist lower school, mind only, sutra school, great exposition schools, those philosophers who believing on flowers are depend on causal condition. Also, the things, flowers, things are exist through their essence. Through their essence means through their essence means independently existence, inherent existence. That is why here it is saying non-contingent, non-dependent is like a sky flower. So non-dependent phenomena is like a sky flower, it never exists. Therefore, anything, there is nothing that is not dependent. Anything should be dependence. That even lower school accept. At lower school also believing, specific the mind only schools philosopher believing things are dependence. There's nothing that is not dependent. They're all dependent. If things exist through their essence, but if you believing flower exists inherently, independently, then they depend on causal conditions. Same time, flowers depend on causal condition. These two are contradiction, as contradict. If flowers depend on causal condition, that means flower cannot exist independently, inherently, because they are dependent on causal conditions. But you, the mind on the school's followers, one side you are saying flower is dependent on causal condition. Then other side you are saying flower exists independently, right? Inherently. So these two are contradiction. It's contradict, you know, from the middle way consequences course perspective, these are directly contradictions. That's why it is saying if things are dependent on something else, that means they cannot exist by themselves. They cannot exist inherently, independently. So if they exist inherently, if they're able to exist by themselves, then why they need to depend on cause condition? They themselves exist. They themselves, exist. So that is why, from the middle way consequences schools, uh, from that perspective, when they look it to the mind-only schools scholar, you know, uh, philosophers, they seeing they are completely contradict, right? They are seeing them as a contradict. One side, you're believing flower exists independently, inherently. The other side, you are saying flower is dependent on cause condition. So depend on cause condition and exists independently. These are two contradictions. So that's why it is saying all of those mistakes, all this mistake started because they do not able to, what you call, understand dependent means empty of inherent existence. Empty of inherent existence means dependent. So when you do not understanding this meaning, then these problem constantly, you ended up with these problems. So now, so sky flower in Buddhist, when we use sky flower is the example of non-exist. Also, sometimes some texts they use called the rabbit with the horn. Rabbit with the horn is also an example of non-existence. And sometimes flower arise from the stone. So flower cannot arise from the solid stone. So these are in the scripture, they use number of these example, which are the example of non-existence, examples. So therefore, it is saying like if non-dependent, non-contingent is like a sky flower. If the things are not contingent, not dependent anything, that means they are not exist. Right? Anything exists up to dependent on something else. So hence there's nothing that is not dependent if the things exist through their essence, through their nature. Through their nature means through inherently, right? Inherent existence. Then they dependent on causal condition for their existence is a contradiction, right? It's clear now. So, so when they talk about the dependence, the what I mentioned last time, the dependent, for instance, like a conditionate phenomena, like a what do you call this name? Like impermanence phenomena, right? It's called the conditionate phenomena, or or uh, yeah, conditionate phenomena, impermanent phenomena. Their dependent is dependent on cause condition, right? Dependent upon its own causes, that type of dependent. So another we call the non-conditional phenomena, right? The permanent phenomena, unconditional phenomena. They are established depend upon its own parts. So the non-conditional or unconditional phenomena dependent origination in terms of dependent, which means dependent on its parts, right? Parts and whole, that kind of dependence. So all the phenomena, if the things that exist, they have to exist either conditional phenomena, either unconditional phenomena, right? Anything exists have to be part of conditional phenomena or part of unconditional phenomena. There are only two. So anything when there are conditional phenomena, that means they are depend on cause conditions, right? Anything which is unconditional phenomena, that means they are depend on parts, its own parts. So that's how dependent origination, which has dependent upon causes condition, depend upon its own parts and whole. So, so if the things are not dependent anything, that means they are not exist, right? They are not exist. Anything exists have to be dependent on something else, either causes condition, either its own parts or something. So that's why if the things exist, have to be dependent. Therefore, the non-contingent is like a sky flower. If non-dependence, not dependence phenomena is like a sky flower, it not exists. They are not, if they exist, they have to be either conditional phenomena, either unconditional phenomena. So they are both of them, not because if they have to one of these two, either conditional, either unconditional, but that means they have to be dependence, either cause the condition, either its own parts, right? Parts and whole. That's why it is saying non-contingent is like a sky flower. So finally, it means that phenomena that does not depend on others are not exist, right? That's the point. If there anything exists, have to be depend on others. Either its own causal condition, either they depend on its own parts and whole. So uh, that's, I think, the middle way consequences schools believe. And the next Di che tene chungwa le, mato choga yue min pe, rangshin ki ne tongpa le, mato choga meba songs. Which means stanza 15, therefore, since no phenomena exists other than origination through dependence, no phenomena exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence, you taught. So that's similar, the same. Therefore, since no phenomena exist other than origination through dependence, so any phenomena exists have to be dependence, right? Dependent on anything. So therefore, since no phenomena exists other than origination through dependence, you know, uh, similarly, no phenomena exists other than being devoid of intrinsic existence, you're taught. So, which means there's no phenomena, right, which is exists, are not depend on any phenomena. So which means any phenomena have to be exist dependent on others. Any phenomena which means have to, you know, empty of inherent existence. That's the final point. So any phenomena have to be empty of inherent existence, have to be dependent on others, right? Dependent on others. So now these stanza, which mainly talking about this emptiness, which means dependent origination. And it's very much emphasizing on emptiness means dependence, dependent means emptiness, very much emphasizing. So what is this philosophy is important, which means one of the sutra, it's called the Buddha's own sutra. The sutra means the Patita Samupata, right? The sutra Patita Samupata means uh, sutra of dependent origination, Patita Sumapatra. So what the Buddha say? He says, whoever sees dependent origination sees the Dharma. So whoever sees dependent origination will see the Dharma. So I got this sutra from the first Dalai Lama's commentary. He used that specific sutra in that commentary on that stanza. But if you go that sutra a little bit longer, it's saying another, text. If you go all the detail, he says, which means whoever sees dependent originations sees karma. Whoever sees karma sees Buddha, right? That's how it Buddha says in that sutra. So why this is important means when you understanding the dependent origination, emptiness, then you will understand, you can see the Dharma. You will understand the Dharma. When you understand the Dharma, then you know what is the Buddha, right? Buddha come from the Dharma. Dharma create the Buddha. So Buddha doesn't mean it's always be Buddha, right? It's first ordinary beings, like for instance, Buddha Shakyamuni, the Gautam Buddha, first, he's just ordinary being, same like us. His dharma makes him Buddha, right? So that's why the dharma is the one who's mainly creating Buddha and Sangha, everything. So therefore, dharma, when you understand the dependent origination. So what is the dharma, right? Dharma, according to the Buddhist philosophy, when we talk about the Four Noble Truths, Buddha introduced, when we say Dharma, we take refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Right? The second is the Dharma. And sometimes they use in English doctrine, sometimes they use in English teaching. So I'm not sure exactly the word, how can they, what word is suit with them. But the dharma, which is when you can go general explanation of dharma, definition, and specific. So dharma has many meaning behind there. So here, real dharma is among the Four Noble Truth, truth of cessation of suffering and truth path. The third and fourth truth is the real dharma. So dharma, which means cessation of your mental afflictions, right? Cessations of your mind of ego grasping. It's the one part of dharma. Another dharma, which is called truth path, right? The path, not all general path, a specific path, which is when you achieve the seeing path among the five paths, right? Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi, Soha. Five paths. Accumulation path first, second preparation path, third seeing path, fourth meditation path, the last one called no more learning path, right? So when you reach the third path, seeing path, that person, that being, which is called Arya beings in Sanskrit. Arya beings means supreme beings. They are not ordinary. They are special beings, supreme beings. So what they're seeing part, what that mean? That means that practitioner, the Arya being, who experiencing emptiness nakedly, right? Experience emptiness directly, not conceptually. So ordinary people like us could not reach even any parts, right? All the people who reach accumulation part and preparation part, those people never ever experience emptiness directly. Directly, never. So, like us, we experience emptiness conceptually, not direct perception, conceptual, you know, perception. So, conceptually. So, that is why when the person achieved seeing, they experience dependent origination directly. That's why it's called Arya beings, supreme beings, because their wisdom of emptiness is so powerful to antidote to the mind of ego grasping directly, you know, because they experience emptiness directly, right? So that's why it's become more powerful. That's why when the person reach seeing part, their mind of ego grasping still there, but it's much powerless. Right now it's very powerful, which we have. But when you reach the seeing part, mind of ego grasping become very weak, powerless. That's why it's called supreme beings. That kind of realization, right? Where it speaks emptiness directly, that's called seeing path. It's the truth path, karma. Karma one is that. So that truth path leads to cessation, right? Cessation of your mind of ego grasping. So that cessation will lead there. Who will help to get there? Your wisdom of emptiness, a truth path. That's why these two are the called karma, karma, which means that. So now, whoever see dependent origination, see dharma, right? What that means right now we're believing. But we believe in cessation of mind of ego grasping, cessation of mental affliction, cessation of samsara, liberation from samsara. We are liberate, to the Buddhahood. All these things we believing right now. Most of this believing is just by faith. So when you really understanding emptiness, dependent origination, when you really experience emptiness, then you know mind of ego grasping is absolutely wrong, mistaken. You understand that. So when you know mind of ego grasping is absolutely wrong perception, that means your mind of ego grasping is possible to change, to eliminate. This is wrong perception. So it is possible to change because wisdom of emptiness, the other side. When you have this wisdom of emptiness, you seeing this wisdom of emptiness is directly antidote to your mind of ego grasping. Because when you experience emptiness, then you understanding this mind of ego grasping is a temporary wrong perception. Eventually, it can eliminate because you know the object, is called the engaging object of the mind of ego grasping is not exist there, right? The engaging object or mind of ego grasping is independent existence of the phenomena, right? So independent existence of phenomena is not exist. When you understanding the emptiness, you 100% know this does not exist. So it's just grasp, just believing, but it's not exist. That means that mind is soon, it will collapse. It will fall down because you see there's a huge antidote attitude there. So that's when you understanding the emptiness, dependent origination. Then you see the cessations of your mind of ego grasping. That's the dharma, right? When you're understanding the dharma, you know the Buddha. Buddha means the being who is free from defilements. Mind of ego grasping is one aspect of the obstacle called afflictive obscuration, right? Now there's another one, more subtle one. It's called imprints of the mind of ego grasping. The imprints, tendency, right? Tendency. So the imprints of mind of ego grasping, more subtle, is called cognitive obscuration, right? When the mind of ego grasping itself is possible to eliminate, then why not its imprints can eliminate? Because that imprint is just mind of ego grasping, right? That mind to leave that imprints. The things which is completely eliminated, then that imprints is sooner or later, it will change. So that cognitive obscuration. So enlightenment Buddha means the being who's not only free from afflictive obscuration, the mind of ego grasping, it's also free from the cognitive obscuration, which is imprints of mind of uh, ego grasping, right? So when that called cessation of cognitive obscuration, whoever achieved it, whoever has cessation of cognitive obscuration, that person, that being called Buddha, right? That's the called Buddha. So whoever sees dependent origination will see the Dharma, right? Truth path and to the cessation of suffering. Whoever see the Dharma will see Buddha, right? So that's why this dependent origination, this philosophy, how important they are. So it is saying when you're experiencing dependent origination, for the practitioner who practice on renunciation, it's tremendous helps you to cultivate renunciation. Because renunciation, the main practice is seeking oneself free from their mental afflictions, specific the mind of ego grasping, right? So today, we have very difficult to cultivate renunciation even. Bodhicitta is far there. Even renunciation, we have a struggle because we still do not understanding disadvantages of our destructive emotion, specific the mind of ego grasping. So we do not really understand that. So therefore, we don't have concern or fear, worry to our mental afflictions, to our mind of ego grasp. We don't have that. So not having concern and fear to mental affliction, how can you feel wish to free from mental affliction? Right? How can you have desire to free from mental affliction? Not having desire to free from mental affliction, how can you have desire to liberation, to achieve liberation? Liberation, which means freedom of your mental affliction, specific mind of ego grasping, right? So do not have strong wish to achieve the liberation, the freedom of mind of ego grasping. That's why we don't have renunciation. That's why our practice of the Dharma is not becoming antidote attitude to our mental afflictions, right? Our practice in karma, whatever we do daily, these practices are not becoming antidote attitude to our mental affliction. We are not able to apply to antidote to our mental afflictions. All of these mistakes because of the not understanding the dependent origination properly. That's how, when you're understanding that, this struggle will change. There's a big knot each this struggle. So all of this knot will open when you're understanding the dependent origination. For the beginner, understanding dependent origination will help you to cultivate the renunciation practice. For the Mahayana practitioners, understanding dependent origination is helps to cultivate compassion, mudicita. When you go to look into what is this of the engaging to the middle way by the Chandakirti. So he also talking about the three different types of the compassion, right? So one of the compassion is called the compassion with assistance of emptiness. So it is saying when the person experiencing emptiness, then they know this mind of ego grasping, how much it's destroy your life. It's the root causes. Through that, when you're seeing entire beings, even they're very rich, very powerful, but they do not have wisdom of emptiness, lack of understanding the true existence. These mind of ego grasping will lead them to the samsara, suffering. So suffering of not having wisdom of emptiness. Another word, suffering of remain with a mind of self-grasping, as they see it's a very dangerous suffering. So that is why you feel more compassion. Even physically, they are very healthy, materialistic, they are very rich, power, everything they have. So the ordinary people, sometimes we have a struggle to feel compassion to those people who are rich, who are powerful. But when you're understanding the emptiness, easily, because you see the suffering, very different level of suffering, the suffering of mind of ego grasping, so that every entire beings are the same victim of that. So that's why wisdom of emptiness also helps to cultivate compassion to other beings. So therefore, it is saying whoever sees, dependent origination, when the Buddha say, will see the Dharma, right? Which means that. So the understanding the dependent origination, tremendous individual level practice helping, so feeling for compassion, other method aspect of the practice also, emptiness philosophy, tremendous helps. That is why it is saying dependent origination is the essence of Buddha's teaching. His main teaching, dependent origination, is the essence of the Buddhist practice. So being a Buddhist, not understanding dependent origination or not get opportunity to study on the dependent origination, which means huge, big loss, right? Huge, big. You don't get it. The main point, you don't get it. You just got little food here, there, just small things. The real food, you never taste it, never taste it. So therefore, all these stanzas, right now they're talking, the point is dependent origination is the one very important to understand, to study, to practice, and that will change all your practice completely. So that's why the Buddha says that whoever see dependent origination, see the Dharma. Also, Nagarjuna, the fundamental wisdom, he also says that those who see dependent origination, they indeed see suffering, the origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to the cessation. So Four Noble Truths. So whoever see the dependent origination will understand Four Noble Truths properly. So in Maitreya Buddha, right, met each different master when they introduce Buddhism, different way. Maitreya Buddha, according to the ornament of realization, that text. So when he introduced Dharma, first he teach two truth, conventional and ultimate truth. That first introduced. After the understanding the true truth, then he introduced Four Noble Truths, right? After the understanding the Four Noble Truth, then he introduced refuge, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. These kind of things, he introduced that. So these are for the scholar students, who really advance, smart student is when we study the Dharma, first two truths. Two truths are like a basic, in His Holiness always, when he introduced, it's called Buddhist science, which is conventional truth, ultimate truth. There's nothing to do with a belief, faith, something. This is how it is. Either they exist conventionally, either they exist ultimately. Only the way to exist is the true reality. What is the reality? So based on understanding the true truth, then Buddhist practice put it there, Four Noble Truth. Certain things we have to stop, certain things we have to take it through understanding the true truths, right? So in order to do that, then we need to rely on Buddha Dhamma Sangha, right? Taking refuge. That's how they introduce. So therefore, Nagarjuna also says, who sees the dependent origination will see Four Noble Truths, right? Nagarjuna says that. So also Nagarjuna says, same text, fundamental wisdom, he's saying, knowing that all phenomena are empty, yet still relying upon karma and its result. So understanding the emptiness with tremendous respect to the law of causality, law of karma. This is more wondrous than wonder. This is more marvelous than marvelous. Right? This is marvelous. This is the great, uh, what you call the knowledge, because that means empty means dependent origination. So knowing the emptiness and understanding the emptiness creates you more respect to the law of karma, which means empty means dependent on causes and condition. That kind of understanding, knowledge is more marvelous than marvelous, right? Is wonder, more wonder than wonders. This is one of the best knowledge. So that knowledge directly help us, to lead to the Buddhahood. So that is why these are the very kind of the important philosophy which we need to understand. Now, the last time I mentioned all of these things in order to know, first, you need to understanding the object of negation, right? Object of negation, I mentioned last time quite uh, uh, detail, but most of you may confused, right? It's complicated. So I never expect, oh, you will be understand, 1 hour teaching. Of course, it is impossible. If emptiness is that much easy, then everybody going to become a Buddha, achieve liberation, right? So to achieving liberation is takes so long because of this philosophy. It's not easy. So it takes times. But today I don't have each. There are many teachings by different masters, Nagarjuna or Aryadeva, Chandakirti, Buddha. They're all, one of the common message they're saying is just listening the emptiness philosophy, just contemplating on this philosophy, just meditating on emptiness, dependent origination will tremendous, countless of, accumulate countless of merits, virtues. Is saying, even not experience emptiness, just having doubt, to contemplate there can tremendous helps to cut your negative karma, which are the causes of samsara. That's the Arya Deva, 400 verses. He says that even not experience, just having doubt and contemplate on emptiness, tremendous helps to train, train, or what you call, is training your karmas for the samsara. It's kind of destroying shit, shit. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce. So that's how share this your karma, of the samsara. That's how it's powerful. It's very powerful. Therefore, most of the Buddhist people do not have this opportunity to study this because it's a very, very complicated philosophy. That's why never give up, constantly study. Even 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, after that, maybe something little change, right? So even it takes like that, so constantly, So there's a one part maybe I didn't say last time. So the time is already gone now. So the what you call the when we're doing this object of negation practice. So mentioned last time I sent you the notes, right? So you got it there. When you look at point is existence and the independent existence, right? If you have difficult to distinguish between existence and independent existence, And that's the big obstacle. We cannot able to understand emptiness. So in order to understand the emptiness, independent existence and existence, these two distinguish these two, very important. It's not just only the word. In your mind, when you say this is exists, this is independent exists, and you're able to distinguish these two, that's you need to first learn it, right? Then another mistake is the problem is when we meditate on emptiness, in that stage, when your mind is on the emptiness, on that stage, conventional realities are not there, not exist. For instance, if I meditate on this flower emptiness, right? So this flower emptiness, when you meditate on this flower emptiness, when you see the flower, conventional, that's the flower. Flower emptiness, when they come, in that moment, when you experience or when your mind is on the flower emptiness and that moment, in that mind, flower is not there. Flower not exist in there. But flower, did you negate the flower? Not. You not negate it. You're not seeing the flower in that moment. So distinguish between is not seeing the flower or negate the flower. Huge differences. These are very important when you meditate. Another word is not seeing the flower or seeing flower non-exist. It's very different. You got it? Just not seeing flower or cognizing flower non-exist. It's two huge differences. So therefore, when you meditate on flower emptiness, in that mind, in that point, or I'm not sure how to say this English, in that moment, maybe flower, you're not seeing flower, but you're not seeing flower non-existence, right? You're not cognizing flower is not exists. You're just not seeing the flower. So therefore, you are not negating the flower, right? Because you meditate on ultimate nature of the flower. You investigate the flower, you investigate flower from all this, this, the color, the shape, and particle they have. This is the basic of imputation, right? You're investigating, you don't find flower there in that moment. Not finding the flower in your mind, flower is not exist on the object by its own. There's nothing there. In that moment, when you meditate on there, in that moment in your mind, flower also disappeared. But you not negate the flower. Just flower just not exist there. But you are not cognizing flower not exists. That not. So not cognizing non-existence flower, but not seeing the flower, two differences. Give you one example finally. When somebody asks you to go to your bedroom and to check your dog is there or not, because we don't find the dog. You go to the bedroom, you are looking to the dog. Finally, you don't find the dog there, right? There's no dog. Come back, the person asks you, is dog is there? You say, no, dog is not exist. Means you recognizing dog is non-exist in your bedroom, right? Then that guy asks you if my cup is there or not, right? In your bedroom, did my cup is there or not? What you answer? Your answer is, I don't know, right? You're not going to say your cup is also not in the bedrooms. because you don't see the cup in your bedroom, but you're not able to determine it. Cup does not exist there. You are not looking for the cup. So not seeing a cup or finding cup not exist is differences. So in that bedroom, you're not seeing the cup, but that doesn't mean you cognize cup does not exist in my bedroom. Therefore, you cannot make decision. If they ask you, is my cup is there? You say, I don't know. You cannot say your cup is not there. You are fully determined that dog is not there. You check it, the dog not exist. You cognizing dog non-exists in your bedroom. That's why you determined. Cup, when they ask your cup, you say don't know. Means you don't see the cup. That's why you say you don't know. If you see the cup there, you say, yes, cup is there. Right? You don't see the cup. But at the same time, you cannot say your cup is not in the bedroom. Why? You're not cognizing cup is not exist in your bedroom. That's why you cannot determine it. So therefore, not seeing the cup in your bedroom, cognizing cup is not exist in your bedroom is huge differences. So in ultimate nature, in there's nothing to go with the inherent existence. It is example I'm using right now. So uh, what you call the uh, uh, yes, in emptiness, not seeing the conventional truths. Like flower, when you meditate on flower emptiness, you know, in that moment in your mind, not seeing the flower in emptiness. But that doesn't mean you cognizing flower not exists, right? Why? Because you are not negating flower. You are not negating flower. You negating flower independence. If you cognizing flower non-exist, that means you negate the flower, right? So that's how, when you meditate, you need to understand these distinguished little things, because these little things makes you very complicated, confused. So that's why we have a difficult to distinguish in our mind non-existence or non-exist independently, existence or exist independently. So these things we cannot able to distinguish. Therefore, all these other complicated issues comes. So therefore, first need to understanding these things, then yourself meditate, like investigate yourself. It's good to start from first as a person, self. When you meditate on emptiness, it's first start from the person, self. You know, according to the Chandakirti, uh, I think, yeah, in his text, when you introduce the emptiness, when you study, when you learn, introduce, you started from the first phenomena, emptiness of phenomena, flowers, settling, and all this, right? When you study. But when you meditate to experience emptiness, it first goes to the self. Investigate started from the person, yourself, right? Study from the object side first, and then after selflessness. But when you meditate first, selflessness, then emptiness of the phenomena. So therefore, when you investigate yourself from scan from your crown to the toes, whole body, so ways self. Then you look at your minds, five aggregates. So look at it, investigate, where is it? So eventually you feel like there's nothing, anything there, right? So when you first moment, you feel there's nothing. Maybe you have some kind of feeling of scare or fear of something. So that means you really experience, you are not just visualizing, you're really experiencing. right? Then eventually, if the self is nothing there, then who's meditating, right? Then they stop this way. Oh, there's something. But when I investigate, there's nothing, find anything there. So that's how, after first it goes to like almost like a nihilism, nothing in exists here, right? Then slowly you can remain for their few long term, and eventually who's meditating, who's to then investigate, or they may have something there, have to be said. Otherwise, it's very contradict with the reality. So then the only way to exist is just label, designated, right? The person is designated. So based on, we call the basic of imputation, where they impute it. So either body, either mind, either feeling, anything, we just label on there. It's nothing, anything. So that's how, apply to the meditation. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. And it is good to, I mentioned, when you meditate, we first do with a little bit, devotion, guru devotion practice. Uh, devotion, even you cannot go with all the prayer, something very simple. Faith and respect attitude to your guru, as same as a Buddha, some kind of from deep of your heart, right? If you can, do 7 limb practices, just meditate, prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing, requesting, supplication, dedication, right? These are accumulate merit. And then after even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, then meditate emptiness. First, investigate object communication, try to find. Then, after they negate that object and remain on emptiness. I think that's, you have to do even 5 minutes. Try it. Go with, not much time. Even 5 minutes is very good. But when you do constantly, your mind is become familiarized with this kind of meditation and have become familiarized. Then slowly, when you learn more, then you're getting better experience, right? So if you not meditate, then it's just become academic. Then it's not that much. Of course, just hearing, listening, study. I mentioned it's equivalent merit, of course, right? But without experience emptiness, you cannot cut your mind of equal grasping, and you cannot liberate from some sin. And then if this life not, then next life getting worse and worse. If in this life you get a little bit experience on the emptiness, next life they have a chance because you put the big imprints there. So those imprints will ripen for the next lives. So if you not make some connection to experience, then disconnecting with the emptiness, then next life more difficult, to find. So therefore, study and really meditation. Meditation is really important. At least even 5 minutes, try it. That's important. Okay, thank you. So I have here a few minutes left, so I'll give you the question answer section. So any questions, please go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question, Geshe Pandey.
Yeah.
Thank you for teaching us. And my question is, you taught us this week and last week about permanent non-conditioned phenomena, and that is in respect to the dependent origination on parts. And could you give an example of a permanent phenomena and then how that depends on the parts, just so we can think a little more deeply on that, please?
So for instance, when we say sky, right? The sky is like huge, big, the empty space sky. So it also depends on east, west, north, different direction have all the skies. So these skies are depend on each directions. Without each of these directions of the sky, there's no sky. So sky means ended up with one of the directions. You have to go there. So without depending on each of directions of the space, there's no sky. So that's the called the parts. With the directions, the part of the directions.
Thank you.
Geshe-la, I have a question. I just want a clarification. When you were talking about meditation, you were asking us to meditate on the object negation and then negate that. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. First, you should cognize the object of negation, right? I mentioned, like, for instance, self. First, when you meditate, you have to create self grasping. I'm happy. I'm suffering. I. You create it. And that moment you look at when you think about I. What kind of are you thinking? I mean, something there, right? I can hold it. I can grab it. It's something pointable. You never thinking about this self, this I, the self. It's just label, imputed by names, authority. But no, it's there. I can hold it. That's called object of negation, independent existence of the self. So that first, you need to recognize yourself. When I grasp self, it's not just simple self. I grasp in self means something there who exists independently, which means who exists by its own. They are solid there. I never think this is just label, imputed. That cognizing. Then second, if that self exists, weighs it, then look at each part of body, your mind, your mental, investigate weighs that self. So finally, you cannot find anything from there. So it means it's nothing there. So it's not just say this is nothing. Feel from your, I investigate, where is it? I don't find it anything, right? So that's how you negate that before something something solid there, it's really my illusion. It's my mistake conscious, just illusion. In the reality, this is really not exist here. That's how you negate it. It's called negate it. Stop that. Right? This kind of self not exists. Then after a few minutes or something, if you feel there's really in that moment when you negate, there's nothing there, just you are looking self and you don't find it anything. In that moment, it's like there's nothing there. In that moment, you don't see the self, you don't see the body, you don't see anything. You just negate that. That's step. You only focus on that single pointly on that. And slowly, if you feel, oh, if there's nothing exists, then who's meditating now? It comes next caution. Oh yeah, there's something I have to say. I can't find it. So there's no choice. The self is just label, imputed. Where they imputed? It's imputed on my aggregates, my body, my mind, that's why I put my body structure as a meditation posture. And my mind say I'm going to meditate. So it's just label on there. So it's where the existence is just labeling, just imputed, that's all. There's nothing solid. So that's how you need to meditate.
Ishala, I have a question.
Mhm.
Thank you for teaching. So, would space be an unconditioned phenomenon, and the Buddha mind another thing that's unconditioned phenomenon?
Buddha mind is not the unconditioned phenomena. They are the conditioning phenomena. Buddha mind is the dharmakaya. So it's kind of conditioning phenomena. Uh, space, space, uh, for me, it's very difficult to explain everything in English. And Tibetan words, Pugananka, we call that in English called space. It's just empty space. Nanka, sky. So sky is unconditional phenomena. Space is actually conditioning phenomena. Space is the conditioning phenomena. So space and sky has a different, they are not same. Sky label on the space, but the space is not the sky. sky, like a cell we label on our body and our mind. Similarly, sky means we just label, impute it on the basic of imputation, the space. But the space itself, which is usually we call, it is conditioning phenomena. It's different than sky. Okay, so it's 8:30. So I think the next Thursday we will cancel the teaching here because at the center there is a nun who is going to give talk to our center, and I do not want to, I'm teaching here and maybe over there already have, and these are quite a rare opportunity. It's good to get some knowledge from those nuns. It's from Swasti Abbey or something. I do not know that exact name, but a number of you may saw from the center's website and something. So so next Sunday we're going to skip. Oh yeah, there's the website there. So we'll skip this teaching. Not Sunday, Thursday, right? So next Thursday we're going to skip the teaching, and then next Thursday we still continuously keep going. So it's, but the main point is it is important to even 5 minutes you have time to do this meditation. And the traditionally meditation I mentioned, either you can go long term, which means number of 100 deities of Tushita by the prayer during the retreat, and usually always apply, or Guru Puja or any other Guru Yoga practice you can do. But some of you do not have time to do, then you just simple Guru Yoga, mainly, your faith and respect attitude to the Guru and seeing the Buddha and your Guru as an inseparably one. And then that's how the helps to cultivate. So knowing emptiness is really helps to all this practice. So everything's you're just labeling. There's nothing truly anything's there. So Dharmakaya, which is enlightened mind, right, manifest different form according to our karma. So enlightened mind manifests as a Buddha Shakyamuni, manifests as a Lama Tsongkhapa, manifests as a Guru Rinpoche, they manifest as your gurus, your direct teachers, everything. So you can look at it from this perspective and then practice kind of connection. But when you understanding the emptiness, this is much easier, to seeing all of them as the same beings. But not understanding emptiness made little difficult, these things. But anyway, it's important to do at least to meditate every day, even few minutes you have. That's just wants to remind you. And then next Thursday, no class. And then finally, we're going to do the dedication. So this dedication prayer, I mentioned last time, specific take it from one of the Tibetan great masters called Panchen Lobsang Chögyam, which is the Tibetans believe he is the manifestation of Buddha Amitabha, Panchen Lobsang Chögyam. So they have a number of the master specific called Genden Kaikyu Mahamudra lineage, the Sutra, what do you call Pranja Paramita? Yeah, Paramita tradition of the Mahamudra lineage, all of, from Buddha Shakyamuni to Manjushri to Lama Tsongkhapa there. So these masters, each of those masters are the really, really great practitioner, and number of them achieve Buddhahood in one life. So the Panchen Losang Chögyam is one of those lineage holder master. So according to his text in Guru Puja, so there's one stanza, that's why I take it from there. It's called Samsara and Nirvana lack even atom of true existence. So either samsara, either nirvana, all of them are the lack of true existence, which means atom of lack of atom of true existence is lack of inherently existence. Even little atoms, little particles, nothing exists, anything. And now truly means independently, inherently, right? That's called emptiness. Emptiness is everything. Individual, Buddha, everything is the same nature, empty, but empty of true existence, means independent existence. While cause and effect dependent arisings are infallible, same time, cause and effect, karma, law of karma, these are dependent arising, these are infallible, they are true, they're real. True cause and effect still dependent, still exists. Things not exist independently, but everything's exists relatively. Everything's function. That's why I see you blessing to discern the import of Nagarjuna's thought. So the Nagarjuna's thought is dependent means emptiness. Emptiness means dependence, right? That Nagarjuna thought that these two are complementary, not contradictory. So emptiness and dependent always complementary. Emptiness means dependent. Dependent means emptiness, not contradict each other's, right? So we're asking to the Guru, dedicating to bless us to experience this kind of wisdom, right? So it's kind of very powerful. Okay, so we're going to recite the dedication prayer. Samsara and nirvana lack even an atom of true existence, while cause and effect and dependent arising are infallible. I seek your blessings to discern the import of Nagarjuna's thought that these two are complementary and not contradictory. Chanjo Simjo Rinpoche Maje Panam Kijuchi, Jeba Nyamba Mepa Yang, Kone Kondo Pewa Sho. May the precious and sublime Bodhicitta not yet born be born, and that which has been born not decline but increase forever. In the snowy mountain paradise, you are the source of good and happiness. Powerful things in Gyatso generous sea, may you stay until samsara ends. Throughout the world, and in particular this region, may there be no sickness, famine, war, and so on. May all sentient beings live happily in accord with the law of Dharma, and may they all find wealth, prosperity, and all goodness. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Geshe-la. Bye. Thank you,
Geshe-la,
Geshe-la.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Geshe-la.
Thank you.